at the end of this, them spending 8 to 10 reps outside of practice, mind you, on Shedeur, that isn't something that they can really wax poetic about later and be like, we really did everything in our power.
I mean, I think it's interesting. We didn't really get into it because it was game week and it was kind of lost in the shuffle there. But it's interesting to watch the Browns play this game on two fronts. On one hand, they set everybody's expectation as low as you could by putting the report out there with Diana Rossini going into the Bengals game. Hey, he's not playing this year. Which is the kind of thing you say going into week one, but it's not a promise you can make across a full season, knowing where this season could go.
Right. It also contradicts what the owner had said, too, by the way.
But it has its purpose for why that was out there, and it makes sense. And then you're also out here telling everyone, well, hey, don't worry. I mean, we got time for Shedeur, too. It's a little bit of have your cake and eat it, too. And I think some of it might be that they understand that there's a hornet's nest there with Shedeur. The reality is, nothing has stopped me from thinking, not only am I going to see Dillon Gabriel this year, but at some point I'm going to see Shedeur. But how they roll out these two guys and when they...
Oh, you see, I'm not as sold on that at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I'm not as sold.
Have you given up hope?
A little bit, yes. And the idea that we're going to see Shedeur this year, yeah. I feel like it's going to be Dillon Gabriel. And I think in their mind, they think it's going to be Gabriel. And that's just until the end of the season.
No, I agree with you on that. That's what they think. You and I know football, though.
Well, and we know that a lot can happen, and we know that once the losing starts, it just keeps going. And I think in that instance, I almost look at them with Shedeur as if they're saving him, and they will continue to save him for some sort of, hey, maybe, just maybe, next year he's the break glass in case of emergency. I don't know. They've given me no impression to think that Shedeur's in the cards for them this year.
I'm just looking at it from... I think I'm more convinced now you're a 3-14 team. I said 4-13. I'm not going to downgrade it. I didn't talk to any special Browns quarterbacks. I didn't talk to Cody Kessler yet, yes. So I'm not gonna downgrade my opinion. But I think they are a 4-13 team, and I think you might even be lucky to get there if you can't pull the nose up on this thing. And when you factor that in, I don't know, maybe Kevin Stefanski has no plans of starting Shedeur. That could be a real problem for him late in the season. If he's like, well, we've seen 10 weeks of Dillon Gabriel and I need to see 3 more, well, that's when maybe Big Jim there decides to step in and make some sort of executive decision.
And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping beyond hope that's what Jimmy Haslam then steps in and is like, well, all right, we got to see the other rookie then. But I could just as easily see Stefanski say, all right, it's Bailey Zappi time now.
See, I need it to be Kevin's decision.
I don't think it's going to be.
I need Kevin to show me that he can evolve in the pressure of what could be. I'm not giving up yet. I'm not going to be a naysayer about this. I'm not going to Sunday's game pissed me off because it was non-competitive. Not just I've dealt with losing before. I haven't forgotten what that's like in looking for silver linings. I'm not going to. The sky's not on fire yet. As long as you keep it competitive, but. I need Kevin to show me that he can pivot in season without using it to buy him security, without being forced to do it. Because I think Kevin's camp, and I'm going to say his agent has done a good job of getting us out there, maybe Kevin has as well. They've done a good job of hiding behind the perceived dysfunction with everybody else, which has allowed Kevin to go untethered and untouched from any criticism. The decision on Dillon and how soon they play him, that's going to have a big bearing on whether I truly expect at some point to see Shedeur. I have a feeling we're 2 weeks away, if that, from seeing Dillon. And if that's true,
I mean, I hope you're right.
If you're on 3-14 trajectory, week 12, week 13, week 14, and you just go, yeah, the kid's not ready. It's well, it's apparent you're still losing a lot of games. Maybe Dillon Gabriel wasn't ready.
Well, and it'll remain true, too, at that point, if they're even thinking about Shedeur, that I want to see what these rookies can do, and having Shedeur play is much better than having Bailey Zappi play. But they've given me no reason to believe that they're going to, at any point this season, go to Shedeur.
I think that is where listen, we don't have, as media, we don't have the ultimate end-all, be-all kind of power to do things. But do the fan base in this town have an influence on that team? Yes, they've shown you multiple times that they pay very much attention to what fans are thinking. At points, it's been to their own detriment. Have they maybe, even if they haven't directly done it, have they in some way shown you that they pay attention to what the media says and what the temperature is out there. 100%. And this is where I do think, like...
Well, I think it's in their best interest, by the way, to play Shedeur. I think it could be a saving grace of sorts. They've given me no reason to think that he's nothing more than something they'll consider in year 2, but not year 1.
But I think that's why. I think that's where this thing matters. I think if you're 10 games into Dillon Gabriel and you're 1-9, okay, we can see more of that the next year. You're going to need to see more of Shedeur this year. And we're going to play the Emory Hunt stuff coming up, but that's a part of it. Like, if you go through this season and you're 3-14, 4-13, maybe even 5-12, which feels real rosy at this point, if you are that and you don't play both quarterbacks, it's foolish. It's not, wow, we're protecting the kid. It's not, he wasn't ready. It's not, wow, we weren't sold on him. No, it's foolish. I watched you play DTR 3 years into that dude sucking in the NFL so you could make the definitive end-all, be-all. Does he suck? Play. I don't need those games last year.
No disagreement from me on that. I'd love to see Shedeur out there. I'm kind of like beaten down when it comes to the will the Browns take care of Shedeur and do this in any sort of way that I think they should. And at every turn, they just don't.
We just had Ross Tucker on early in the hour. And one of the things we referenced was Emory Hunt, football game plan, CBS Sports, who joins the Ross Tucker Football Podcast every week. And something that Emory, who was staunch in his love of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, had to say when comparing those two quarterbacks with the prospective class for 2026.
Shedeur and Cam Ward are far and above better than whoever the top quarterback would be in this class. The second part of it is that you can see how groupthink permeates throughout the rest of the narrative in the media landscape because you have people that get hung on these names, right? Nussmeier, Aller, you talk about Klubnik, and you talk about Arch Manning, right? Arch Manning was number 1 with a bullet in everybody's mock draft, right? Based on 95 passes. But that kind of focused everybody's attention on just those names. And everybody's just kind of recycling the same 5 names. If everybody just zoomed out and did what they were supposed to do and just evaluated the whole class, you'd see the Taylor Green. You'd see the Haynes King. They're the same guy. They're playing the same doggone game.
So the thing I like about this is that, and something that Emory does a lot, is pokes at groupthink in football. Mm-hmm. I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is I think it's wildly unfair, whether I like Shedeur, don't like Shedeur, like Cam Ward, don't like Cam Ward, to compare those guys as finished products from last April, or really the end of last year, to guys 3-4 games into this season.
It's just too early to do any of it, and it's going to be how we look at this. I mean, that's the reality. Like, I think about when we did the Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward lead up to the draft conversation last year. And like February, the first person, it might have even been Albert, that we had on that was like, there's 5 quarterbacks from last year's class that are better than this year's class. Like, it's just what we do. It's eventually how we all look at these things, but it's just way too early in the conversation to be doing this with this class versus last year.
And here's the other thing. At this point, we're talking like, If we're comparing 3 games of tape from this year, from their tape from their last season in college, at this point, the only thing I can really compare is the physical tools. Lenora Sellers, because of his ability to run and move, on top of his ridiculous physical upside, absolutely has a higher upside than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, he didn't mention Lenoris there. He mentioned everyone but Lenoris.
Drew Aller. And I know it's tough because you look and you go, well, I don't think he's special. I get that. But he's 6'5". He's 235 pounds. He's not the most mobile guy in the world, but he can move. And he's got a really strong arm and some really, really, really good traits. Higher ceiling than certainly Shedeur. I'm not sure about Cam Ward. That might be more of a 1-for-1. He is bigger, and I do think he has just as strong of arm as Cam Ward, so that's that. So, like, you start to go through it, and what we're like, I do think almost every player that we've talked about being a potential number 1 pick next year has higher physical upside than certainly Shedeur and potentially Cam Ward, who is played like 17 years in college. The only guy that I'm really just kind of confused about is Nussmeier, who, like, I got to be honest with you, he's another one of those guys of, he's got the intangibles, and the things you can tange don't blow you away.
Well, that's the problem right now with a lot of this class. It feels like a lot of the class has the intangibles and the things we're trying to actually, like, hey, he does this great in a football game, isn't really appearing.
But if you're a physically, I don't want to say limited guy, but comparative to Aller, Sellers, even Klubnik, if you're not that caliber of athlete or that caliber of arm like Nussmeier isn't, you better put up 5,000 yards. You better do what Joe Burrow did. You better do what Baker did. Like, that's what you need to do. And I think Nussmeier's the one, because he fits Stefanski's scheme to a T. Like, everything Kevin wants to do, assuming he's here next year, Garrett Nussmeier's the guy, and that's why I think the Browns have been linked so much to Garrett.
Oh, also fit the Saints scheme, too, where his dad is the offensive coordinator.
And I think you're willing it that way, and I don't hate it. But, no, I mean, I think, like, that's the only guy that I'm a little concerned about, but, like, I don't know.
It's too hard to tell. It's okay to say it's too hard to tell right now. I think it's just too incredibly hard. And if you're trying to do it,
I think Emery knows that.
Well, if you're
that's
trying
the
to do
thing
it,
that I think does bug me a little bit.
But here's the thing, though. If you're going to try to do it Cam Ward versus Shedeur, on the Cam Ward side of things, you're going to get one quarterback that's 1 of 1, so that'll be a split. And then every quarterback we're talking about, and maybe there'll be a Quinn Ewers S drop for one of them or so, something like that. But for basically 80% of the quarterbacks we're going to discuss, they're going to end up being taken higher and better than Shedeur was. So it's going to be a split.
I think this sounded the alarm for a lot of Browns fans who heard this and were like, oh, crap. Because it is entirely possible. Like, some of this whole, we got to land the plane getting a quarterback, some of that's just, did you take a quarterback in the right year and did you pick the right one of a good crop? Like, for instance, Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams, Drake May versus Caleb Williams, that kind of thing.
Well, but I think fans thought they were getting themselves into what was that Baker Mayfield class with Josh Allen and Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen and Lamar Jackson. I think they thought they were getting into that, and the early returns aren't there. But I would just say it's 3 weeks in. Like we can fast forward 5 weeks from now, and all the quarterbacks we're talking about have materialized into being the quarterbacks that everyone projected them to be before the season.
That's also a really, really good point, by the way, because most of the guys we're talking about haven't played a lot of competition. Mm-hmm. So, and that does matter, by the way. Not that, you're playing down to your competition, but it's like, we're still kind of in the preseason of college football, where when you play La Tech or when you play Wyoming, like, these are the kind of games where it's like, okay, you didn't have the sexiest numbers. You beat them 70-0, right? I just literally combined all the quarterbacks and the things you can say. When Drew Aller's going up against Ohio State, that's a huge matchup for how good is Drew Aller really. We just go up against this Michigan team or Illinois, or like, that's where you're going to find out a bulk of who he is. And by the way, even then, what does he look like in the playoffs?
Well, but you can't do it this early either when they do have those primetime matchups. It's like the Nussmeier-Klubnik thing is just gone off the rails because they played each other and we saw how that went. The Ohio State versus Texas game, Arch Manning didn't look particularly good. It snowballed from that, and I just think it's just way too early to be this unfair.
Now, am I a little concerned? Yeah, a little concerned. But I think this idea that we got to wave the flag and say, they just didn't pick the right year, they need a quarterback. Well, you can't really worry about that. You got to do your own evaluation.
Yeah, and you got to get to the spot that you need to get to.